Europeans have moral responsibilities, historical responsibilities, and international responsibilities. Historical responsibilities because Europeans were once refugees, and we should not forget that. Moral responsibilities because the current refugee crisis is also due to an inability of Europe and the West and other countries to support those forces working for peace in the Middle East. And international responsibilities in the sense that Europeans have made commitments in terms of international law to protect people fleeing from conflict. What we have seen since the surge of refugees last summer is that national cultures, national debates have varied enormously among European countries for many reasons. Some of them are historical reasons. For instance, Central and Eastern Europe has been far less exposed to the rest of the world through mobility and immigration because it was behind the Iron Curtain for many years. So their societies are far less multicultural compared to other countries which have been great countries of immigration, for instance, Britain, France. And that's the type of immigration started in the post-Second World War period because of their empires. Other countries which used to be countries of emigration have became countries of immigration far later than others, like Italy or Spain. So we have very different experiences with integration and very different models of integration. I mentioned France and Germany as being the countries which historically have had the most immigration and have had that are very multicultural societies, but they have chosen very different paths of integration. So there is no unified model in Europe. There is no standard around which European governments can cooperate. And this has been the underlying factor which has prevented European states to cooperate in a more efficient and in a less crisis mode over the refugee influx. The whole management of the influx has been very haphazard, very disorderly, and this management has actually fueled political tensions and has destroyed any context in which more solidarity could be built. Somehow we need to get back to a point in which member states can discuss proposals in an open and frank way. And one starting point is acknowledging that there are differences and different sensitivities. Another is also acknowledging that conflict, unfortunately, is not over, and therefore the forced migration and people will continue to not be knocking on Europe's door, and we need to frame this in the proper ways. Why not, on the one hand, look at the responsibility to protect principles which say that people in need of protection need to be offered a safe passage, and that safe passage is not crossing the Aegean and risking drowning, and it hasn't been the Balkan route because it's been dangerous, it's been undignified, it has not helped those people, and all it has done has been to stimulate illegal trafficking and smugglers. So why not offer safe passage to these people by mobilizing the crisis response mechanisms that Europe has? They are designed in such a way that all the relevant levers, all the relevant decision makers can convene around a table within 24 hours and activate national border guards, the police, the army, humanitarian agencies to deliver what is needed. I have spoken to people who are in the business of providing on the ground humanitarian aid, and they claim that the numbers were manageable. Of course, this is a short-term measure, it's not the long-term, but at least it could have provided an initial response in August, September 2015. because many of Europe's neighbours have a bad track record on human rights issues, it's extremely important that any conversation which focuses on cooperating on managing population movements has human rights and international protection of refugees at its heart. There also are plenty of other things that Europeans can look at. For instance, other things that can be put on the table. For instance, agriculture. For instance, trade. Why not offer trade concessions to countries which are hosting many refugees? Much more help on education, educating refugees, making sure that they are able to continue, children are able, and adults are able to continue with an education, not just in the language of the country that is hosting them, but also in their language of origin, so they can be facilitated in returning to their country of origin. So there are plenty of things that can be done, and I think these can also be in the interest of the neighbour. And so if the discussion is broadened a bit with human rights at their centre, involving civil society organisations, then I think Europe can get a better deal, which is also politically more sustainable and does not fall into the dodgy waters of hard realpolitik.